All right, the great Kalle Sauerland. I suppose it would be weird if there was a Misfits press conference. Fantastic, great to see you again. It would be strange if there was a Misfits press conference where there wasn't a push in the face-off, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we have had a few. Today was a very different one, though. That was premeditated. I do think that it was a case of, I asked him, why are you taking this fight? He's living the good life. He's got nightclubs, like he's told us, all around the world. He's the $1 billion boy, right? Or $1 billion man. He's essentially retired with a 9-0 record. The top 10 in the world with the WBA, the oldest governing body. He's held a WBA international championship. So why put yourself through this? It's not money. So why? Now I'll give you the answer. And I was trying to tease him out of it up there in a way. I'll tell you why. He lives the life now of an influencer. The jets, the clubs, the girls, the talking, this. So he sees himself now as an influencer, although he's a former pro boxer.
Yeah.
So I think it's a case of he's jealous of the position that KSI has got himself into, and he's here to take him out. That's what his thinking is. And he went up there today. He said things like, "I'm going to meet you in the middle of the ring," and I believe that could happen. Whether that works is another matter. I think my man takes him out, but that's the motivation. And when he went up and did the push, that they were talking to each other. It was the usual. I thought you looked a bit bigger. No, it was harmless banter, and it came out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. So, no, that was the sign. Little lion, step aside. Daddy lion's here. That was him making that. JJ was, for his standards, much more reserved, much more respectful in his answers. I mean, he still gave him one. Can't expect nothing else from KSI. That he told him he was going to knock him out as well, etc. But he didn't go the extra length. Yeah. And I think that was a little bit out of he had that pro fight feeling up there today. He's fighting a man who is a pro fighter. So this was a different mindset that JJ's got into here. But does that change from that push? I think so.
Well, it's one of these things where, I think the critique that JJ has had, or the problem that he's had since he's making his comeback is, when he first started out, he was the underdog in every one. He was the underdog against Joe Weller, underdog against Logan. Yeah. He was very much...
Logan too as well.
Logan too, of course. Yeah. He was very much the favourite in these 3 comeback fights, 2 events, 3 fights. Yeah. Even in the fights that were originally scheduled, he was a favourite against Donagh, favourite against Wasabi. Yeah. It's kind of nice. He seems to think of himself as back in the underdog role now.
Yeah, I guess that lifts the pressure, but I do also, there is a feeling though, and I asked him the question, it was a bit unfair of me, but I said to him, do you feel that pressure? Because let's face it, in this world now, it's about beating that pro for the legacy almost, isn't it? Jake Paul, Tommy Fury, boxers with Tommy Fury and Joe Fournier, very similar records. One much more experienced, one still learning, but similar records. The achievements probably on the side of Fournier, but let's say the youth on the side of Fury. But forget it. The whole thing was a marker for both of them, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course.
And
we'll see
and let's face it, Jake Paul came up short. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. He can better himself and come
back. But JJ's not going to come up short.
But JJ ain't going to do that. He's not going to do that. He's not going to overlook the man. We had the back and forth since November, December with contract drafts between our lawyers and their lawyers, and obviously I was party to those things, and I know where the ball dropped.
Yeah,
I know where the ball dropped.
Yeah, I know. And so last one for me, we're a bit pressed for time, of course. You knew I was going to have to ask about this thing that's potentially happening on June 3rd. What is the latest from your end? Is there a serious conversation
June
about...
June 3rd, on my holiday, my birthday's on June 3rd.
You have a holiday booked in the Middle East?
No, like I said last week, it's a flirtation. There was a flirtation. it's gone rather quiet. We're working on putting the final touches, we hope, on Liam Smith. But there has been flirtation. It's gone very quiet. So I don't know. But things can speed up very quickly in boxing as well. So
you understand you would be putting Chris at a monumental risk if you were to put him into that fight, given what the British board have said. You know, he could, like, it could be maybe his last fight.
I mean, let's put your statement there, your question into perspective here. Yeah? The same British board that, you know, didn't tell us that his opponent was positive.
Right.
So who was putting who into risk? Were they putting him into risk by letting him spar, by letting him make weight? So couldn't I say that they put him in risk last summer, between the dates of August 20th until the end of September, so a good 5-6 week period.
I'm talking about outside the ring. He's never going to. He may never fight again if he does this one fight in Dubai or in Abu Dhabi.
Hear me out on this one. So they sat on information that we should have been party to. Forget contracts. Morally, as a license holder, he should have been party to that information. He trained. He went into sparring, and believe me, sparring. You know, touch wood, I've seen accidents, terrible accidents in sparring. He was put into those situations training for the fight of his life, pushing himself through the mill, making weight, sparring. But everyone knew, didn't they? They knew. They knew that fight weren't happening. So, why? Like, why not come and say, look guys, there's an issue. We don't think this fight's going to take place. We would have gone off, found another opponent, and probably still boxed on October the 8th in the O2 against another opponent. So, when you ask me whether I'm worried about the British board and stuff, first of all, there currently isn't an application to fight in the UAE because there is no deal to fight in the UAE. If that time comes, then we will make our argument very clearly.
Thank you very much.